Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last SEC schedule preview before the 2019 season starts. This is the last video of the 2 weeks of the SEC. I will not be uploading another SEC video, at least on this channel, and for quite some time, unless something urgent comes up right away. But I have mentioned on a couple of occasions that I am very high on Ole Miss. I think they are a pretty good team. Whether they're good enough to actually compete with some of the higher-end teams like Texas A&M, Auburn, LSU, and Bama, probably not. But let's see if they have a chance to maybe make a bowl game or maybe even have a winning record in the 2019 season. So Ole Miss starts out the season actually on the road against Memphis. I think this is going to be a very offensively filled game. Both these teams kind of pride themselves on offense, not defense. I think Memphis will actually put up a pretty decent fight against Ole Miss. I don't think Ole Miss's defense will be able to stop the Memphis offense. But then again, I would place my money on Ole Miss to win 45-35 just because the Ole Miss offense, I think, is a little bit more equipped to win a game like this than Memphis's offense. So Ole Miss starts out the season. So Ole Miss, in their most difficult game of the season, goes back home to face Selah. Some of you low IQ individuals might not know who the greatest team of all time is. Picture Alabama mixed with Clemson times 100 times 1,000. So that's basically what Selah is. I'm pretty sure they have about 20 million national titles in the past couple years. They've actually been pretty good, and believe it or not, it's been actually a down year. They've been 17-0 past couple years, so it has been a down year. But hopefully they can get back to 30-0 seasons. But on a realistic note, Ole Miss is going to be whatever this team is, 62-0. Sorry guys, I must apologize. I have this a little bit out of order. They face Arkansas before they face Selah. Before you guys get triggered in the comments, you have these out of order. Just relax. I made a mistake. I make those sometimes. They happen rarely. I'm always perfect with my previews, obviously. That's why I am the most qualified person to give you an opinion on this platform. That's why I have all of 4 subscribers. I'm making about $1 million a month off the YouTube thing. It's just you guys value my opinion so much and you guys rely on me, and it really gives me a purpose, But on a real note, I think that Ole Miss is actually going to beat Arkansas in a pretty offensive-filled game. It's going to be a fun game to watch. Not much defense. So I think Ole Miss is going to beat Arkansas 38-35. And this will be before their game against Selah. So at this point now, they're 2-0, but after the win over Selah, they are 3-0. So a very interesting game here in Week 4 as Ole Miss stays at home to face the California Golden Bears, I think. California is in an all-out rebuild right now. They really haven't been great in football, which there's no excuse to be. They should be great. Obviously they're not going to be at the level of USC, but they should have decent years each and every year. There is no excuse. There's so much talent in California. You can throw a rock out of a window and probably hit a 5-star recruit. So they need to get better at just everything. It's an all-out rebuild right now, so I don't think they really hold a candle to what they have going at Ole Miss. So I think Ole Miss is going to win this game 49-21. So as Ole Miss kind of reaches the big meat of their schedule, they start off with Alabama. Obviously, they're not going to be able to hold a candle to Alabama. I'm high on Ole Miss. I'm not that high on Ole Miss. The only way you could be that high on Ole Miss is if you are actually high. So I am going to give the win to Alabama 62-17. Pretty self-explanatory. Ole Miss doesn't really hold a candle to Alabama, not yet at least. If Matt Luke continues on the trajectory that he's at, maybe in 3 or 4 years they could have a chance to beat Alabama, but not for a while will this be a competitive game. So Ole Miss, I think, will start off the season 5-1 thanks to a win against Vanderbilt at home as they return home. These two teams are probably going to be fighting over who's second worst in the SEC and who's third worst. Nothing really to get a trophy for, but I think Ole Miss is just a little bit better than Vanderbilt. I think they have the offensive edge, and they're at home. That's why I'm going to give them the 27-24 victory over Vanderbilt. It might come down to a game-winning field goal, but nevertheless, Ole Miss does find a way to win. So Ole Miss heads back on the road to face the Missouri Tigers. I think a lot of people want me to have Missouri blowing out Ole Miss. I'm not going to do that. That would just be unrealistic. I think Ole Miss will actually put up a pretty good fight here against Missouri. I do think Missouri will win, so Ole Miss goes from winning 27-24 to losing 27-24, maybe by another game-winning field goal, except this time they'll be on the losing end. I think Missouri is just a more complete team and a little bit farther in their rebuild than Ole Miss, so Ole Miss gets their second loss of the season. So Ole Miss heads back home to face Texas A&M. I'm super high on both Texas A&M and Ole Miss. I'm just high on the West in total, except for Arkansas, really. But I do think Texas A&M is going to get the win here, but I am actually going to say it's going to be a more competitive game than anybody realizes. I feel like this is kind of a Missouri situation where everybody wants me to kind of put it as a shootout and kind of just a blowout. But I think this will actually be kind of more of low scoring and closer than people expect. I am going to give Texas A&M the win. I think Texas A&M will come back in the fourth and survive a scare on the road against Ole Miss, and Ole Miss puts up a great fight, but in the end, they're just not able to get it done. They just don't have the leaders that Texas A&M has. So Ole Miss heads back on the road once again to face the Auburn Tigers. Yet another game where most people think this will be a blowout, but I actually think Ole Miss will be competitive here. It won't be as competitive as A&M and Missouri, but it will still be a competitive game. I do think that Auburn will get the 35-21 win here, but I don't think that's a blowout. A lot of people think that's a blowout. I by no means think that is a blowout. I think 28 and above is a blowout. A lot of people say like 10 points is a blowout. I'm like, you're out of your mind. I mean, 14 points is a competitive game to watch, a watchable game. 21 points is kind of when you're getting into blowout territory, but I think to be safe, I'd put 28 and above as blowout territory. If you think 7, 10, 14, even 17 is a blowout, you're crazy. So, Ole Miss continues to be competitive, but continues to not be able to pull out the win whenever they have the chance to. So in kind of a final cupcake game for Ole Miss has two huge games against LSU and Mississippi State. They face New Mexico State. I think Ole Miss is going to handle them. They might not be fully focused for the first half, and they might only be up by 10 at the end of the first half, but I think they'll just run away with this one in the second half and make the score more like you would expect it to be in an Ole Miss-New Mexico State game. I'm going to give Ole Miss the 41-7 victory as they get their 7th win on the season. Well, actually, their 6th win on the season, so now they are bowl eligible. So in a lot of games, I've had Ole Miss being competitive with teams that you wouldn't expect them to be competitive with, such as Missouri, Auburn, and Texas A&M. The only game they really weren't competitive in was Alabama, and I'm going to add LSU to that list as well. I don't think that Ole Miss is going to have all their attention on this game. I think that they know deep in their hearts that they don't have the talent to beat LSU, especially not this year. So all their attention is going to be heavy on Mississippi State in the next week. So I am going to give Ole Miss the 42-17 loss as they head into rivalry week for their biggest game of the entire season. So they end off the year at Mississippi State. Now here's where Mississippi State fans could get mad, and here's where Ole Miss fans could love me. I'm giving Ole Miss the 31-28 upset by a game-winning field goal. I think Ole Miss is actually closer to Mississippi State than most people think roster-wise. Whenever you take a deep dive into it, I think Mississippi State just lost a ton to the draft, and this is a rebuilding year for them. And I'm not a huge believer in Joe Moorhead yet. I'm a bigger believer in Matt Luke than Joe Moorhead. I don't know why. I just think Matt Luke is a better motivator, and I think in these rivalry games, motivation is a huge part of it. So that's why I'm going to give them the 31-28 win as Ole Miss, in a shock season, ends up with a winning record. So Ole Miss has a very positive season, going 7-5, making a bowl game, and not only that, but having a winning record and beating Mississippi State. So I think this is a big year for Ole Miss fans. So now I'm going to take a kind of a heart-to-heart here with Ole Miss fans. Are you ever going to win the West? Probably not, especially with Texas A&M, LSU, Auburn, and Bama all the way up there. I think that 9-3, 8-4 is kind of your ceiling. I think Matt Luke has you headed in the right direction. I am a big believer in this program. Does that make it where I think that they're going to be SEC West champs in 3 years? No. Will they ever be SEC West champs? Probably not for 50 years. But I mean, 8-4, 9-3 is kind of what you would like for Ole Miss, and Ole Miss fans need to be patient and need to accept the fact that they're not on the level as Bama, Auburn, LSU, and A&M, and their ceiling is kind of around the third or fourth spot in the West, which is fine. I mean, that's a fine season. Maybe once in a while you'll maybe even sneak into a New Year's Six bowl. That's kind of like their national title game. But again, a very, very positive year for Ole Miss. 7-5 is a big step in the right direction for Matt Luke in this program. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out all my other 13 SEC schedule previews, as this is the last one. Pac-12 season starts tomorrow, baby. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have an amazing day, and peace.